Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn.
Alright, welcome back everyone to this series on web and app development. In this series, basically what I want to do is I want to teach you how to build apps and websites, and now you can build your own projects and they can be really cool. But in this episode, I'm going to talk about HTML. HTML, it's not a programming language, even though a lot of people think that it is in the beginning. It's Hypertext Markup Language. That's what HTML stands for. And it's what's used to structure a web page. Okay? So, when we look at a website, it's composed of three things. And this is a great analogy for what these three things are. So you have the HTML, you have the CSS, and then you have the JavaScript. The HTML gives you the structure of the website. It tells, just like a house, it gives you the structure or the frame of the house. CSS gives you some, the paintings, we're gonna have windows here. It does some of these basic functions. JavaScript adds the, I would say, logical element to the page, right? So I want lights when I walk inside the house. I want smoke coming out when I turn on a fire, stuff like that, right? So in this episode, we're going to talk about HTML. Now, HTML, like we said, is a markup language. It's not so if I have a language, a programming language, like let's say Python, what happens is I have, the program goes through a bunch of lines that I wrote in code, and it says, do this if that and stuff like this. HTML, what it does is it just creates a structure, and you're creating a structure, and there's not much thought that the program has to do. Okay, you have to do the thinking. Okay, so HTML, and I'll give you a simple example. We're gonna go to Atom, which in the previous episode I said we should download, because Atom is going to allow us to edit and write code. Okay, so in Atom I want to open a folder where basically I'll make a file. So I'm going to go to my Finder. On Windows you could be your Explorer, and I'm going to create a folder called testing. Okay, so I'm going to go to Atom and I'm going to click Files, and I'm going to add a project folder, and here I'm going to go to coding videos, testing. Okay, now I'm in the folder, and I'm going to generate an HTML document. So I'm going to go to the folder and I'm going to right click and I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to enter the file name. Okay, let's call it index.html. The reason that I'm calling it index is because historically, servers make the home page the index HTML file, right? So if you go to any website, and usually the home page is the index.html file. Okay, so I create an index.html file, and now I can have an HTML file that that I can structure in any way I want. So let's say I want my web page to say hello world exclamation mark. Okay, I'm going to save the file. Now that I've saved the file, I can go to Finder and go to our folder, and I can click on the link, and boom, we have the file, the HTML file that I've created, right? And I have the hello world. So HTML allows us to write and add content to the page. So we have our normal hello world, but let's say I want to specify that this is a paragraph. In HTML, what I do is I create something called an opening tag, okay, such as P, right? I add the content inside, so I have my cat is very grumpy, and then I close the tag. Think of it this way: the computer is stupid. It only does what you tell it to do. So you need to tell it, okay, this is the beginning of the paragraph, This is what's inside the paragraph. This is the end of the paragraph. It's not gonna know that this is the end of the paragraph if you don't specify. So in HTML, this is the opening tag. Then this is called the content. I can put whatever I want here. And then this is the closing tag. This thing as a whole is called the element. And HTML is comprised of elements that make up an HTML document. Okay? So, there are many predefined elements. Okay? So, I'm going to write here HTML elements just to, and as you can see here on the website, we have a bunch of predefined elements. Actually, I think on images we can find a better picture. So, for example, we have the HTML tag, which tells us it's an HTML file. It has the head. It also has a body. The body can include a paragraph tag. It also can include an unordered list tag, which we're going to talk about. So I'm going to go back to our Atom, and I want this to be a header. I want Atom to make this a header. So I'm going to say h1. Right? As you can see here, there's different types of HTML elements, and Atom is smart and it knows that this is an HTML file, so it suggests HTML elements. So I click h1, which means that I want a header of size 1. So h1 hello world. Okay, I'm going to save this. I'm going to go back to our browser, and we're going to see the file once we refresh it. Okay, so I'm going to go back to normal size, and I'm going to refresh the page. Okay, as you can see, we now have a header. It is now a header. So that's basically what HTML allows us to do. Now in HTML, I can also have attributes. Okay, and attributes means I want to give it a class that, you know, anything that has this attribute will behave in this way. Okay, so let's say I want any thing with the attribute. So I'm going to make this class. I'm going to say blue color, which means anything that has the class blue color, this attribute, then I want it to be blue. So I'm going to create a style tag. Okay, and I'm going to say class, which is denoted with a dot, blue dash color. Right, it's going to have the color blue. It's not very important for you to know right now that what the style tag is and the classes, because what's inside the style tag is considered CSS. So we haven't talked about CSS yet. However, what's important to know is that I've set the hello world attribute to blue color, right? And so if I refresh the page, what do you think the color of the hello world is? Well, let's see. Boom, it's blue, as expected, right? Now you might be asking, I can say the attribute's called blue color, but what if I make it, you know, green? Is it gonna be blue? No, it's not gonna be blue. It's gonna be green because I define the attribute, right? I define the properties of this attribute. So yeah, actually, I wonder if we, let's expand this so this is more visible. So I've created a h1, a header 1, and I've added the words content hello world inside. I've closed the element with the dash h1. So if I, as you can see here, if I open an element, a tag with called style, then I have to / and then end that style. And the same thing with the class, blue dash color. So here I've created an attribute, right, blue color, and I've set this attribute to have the color green in this case, but I could change it back to blue. Okay, so let's go back here. So we can also nest elements. Nesting elements means I have an element within an element. Okay, so let's say that I want only the word world to be blue because our world is blue. Pretty creative, right? So I'm gonna cut this, and I'm gonna create something called I'm gonna use a strong tag. Strong means, you know, I really want to emphasize it, right? As you can see here, there's different types of tags. We have strike through, we have small, we have all sorts of things. But let's say we're gonna go strong. I'm gonna add, I'm gonna add this attribute, and I'm gonna put world with exclamation point inside strong. Let's save it. Let's see what happens. So we go in here, and I'm gonna refresh the page. What do you know? I have hello world, and world is blue. Now, an H1 enlarges or bolds the text, if you will. So I don't want to bold the text. I'm gonna make it a paragraph again. Okay, let's see what happens now. Refresh. Boom. We have as you can see, hello, the word world is emphasized, it's strong, while the word hello is not. Okay. Well, actually, I'm going to go back to H1. Alright. Now, here's the question. If I add a word after strong, is it going to work? So I would say, hello world, I'm Abe the Explorer. What's going to happen? You think it's going to work? Well, let's see. I'm going to refresh the page, and boom, it worked. Now, notice that the word world is in blue because the attribute blue color only spans this content, right? It only affects the content inside the strong. And just like logically, okay, I cannot put the strong here because when I have an H1, okay, it goes along and it sees, okay, is there a closing H1 tag? No, this is another open tag, okay? So now I have to, it's going to go along, and the strong now is going to be looking for a closing tag, but it finds an H1 closing tag, which is not the same, so it's not going to work. So we're going to refresh, and it didn't work properly, right? It didn't work as we wanted it to work. And actually, in many browsers, this would crash it or say it's false. So we have to close the strong tag. Okay, so now we've closed the strong tag. So we're gonna go down. Now there are such things as empty elements, and these are elements that don't have closing tags. They can have closing tags, but most of the time they don't have closing tags. And a great example of this is an image tag. So hello world, I'm Abe the Explorer. Okay. What we could do is create an image tag. An image tag has a source or a link basically to the image. Now I can grab a link from online. Right? I can go online. I could go to images.google.com, and let's say I really love trees. Well, forest. Search for forest, and I find some really nice forest. Oh, this looks like a beautiful image. So I'm gonna copy the link location, right? So now I have a link, and I can paste this link right here. Oh, it's a long link. Now, if I refresh the page, I should get the picture, right? Well, maybe we copied the link, but we didn't copy the image location. We should copy the image location. So let's go back, and let's paste the image location. We're gonna go here, and we're gonna, boom. As you can see, the image is pasted, right? But let's say I have an image in my folder, and I want to access this image. So let's say I'm going to save this image, and I'm going to go to testing, right? I'm going to save the image. Now if we go back to Atom, I'm going to see, okay, now we have the image here. I'm going to rename it, right? I can rename it. And I'm going to call it forest.jpg. I'm going to copy that name. So now it's called forest.jpg. And I'm going to, so now I have an image, right? And I want to link it in my page. So I can paste the location of the image and it's going to work, but sometimes it won't work. So right now it worked. I just refreshed the page and the image loaded. But if I create another folder and I call it images and I put forest inside images, so now forest is inside the images folder. Do you think it's gonna work? Well, let's refresh the page to see what happens. It didn't work. Now a lot of you might be thinking, why didn't it work? The reason it didn't work is because it can't find the location of the image. I have to link to the image. So I'm gonna say, okay, my file, the index.html file that's trying to access the image, where is it relative to the image? Well, relative to the image, in the same folder, we have images / forest.jpg, right? We save this. Now it should work. And boom, it works, right? So this is a empty tag. So this is a tag that doesn't have a closing. Recall that style tag has a closing, h1 tag has a closing, strong has a closing. However, image does not have a closing. Okay. So this is the anatomy of an HTML document. You know, these are the basics of HTML documents. HTML is not that complicated. It's a language that you can pick up so easily, and I recommend that all of you try to do this, build the same thing yourself. And I'm going to leave a link to some of this code so you guys can go and copy it and then download it on your editor and play around with it and test it out. Okay. So an HTML document needs to have a doc type HTML. So we first say that this is an HTML document, and then we need to say that again that this is an HTML document by opening an HTML tag. So this would fly if we're testing it on our local browser, but a lot of web browsers are not going to be happy with this HTML file because we need to have an HTML. First of all, we have to declare the doc type in the top. So declare the top doc type HTML. Now recall that HTML, we have to close the HTML tag. So we're gonna HTML, boom, close that. And we're gonna say that this text that we have is inside the body, right? This is inside the body. And we have to close the body tag. Now, this is great, but I also have a head. And you might be asking, okay, what the heck is this head? This head is the head of the document. It's not something that people see on the browser, like they don't see it with their own eyes, but it does have a value. So it gives us information and gives the browser information about our web page, about our HTML page. So I'm going to say hello world. That's the title of our page. Okay, so when Google, for example, when you're looking for a file on Google, it looks at the title. Okay, does the title match what the person searched for? So if we go to our page, we're gonna refresh, and you see right now on the top it says the location of the file, of the HTML file. Well, if you refresh it, as you can see, the title is now defined, hello world. So you see, if I look online, and this page basically has a title that says HTML basics. So our page now has a title, hello world. Great. So we have the doc type, and basically the reason the doc type is around is because when they started out, HTML had them, and they're still around. They're a historical artifact, and they should work without the HTML files should work without them. But sometimes you got old browsers, right? HTML element wraps all the entire page. Then you have the head element. It acts as a container for all the stuff you want to include on the HTML page that isn't the content of the page. So for example, keywords, you can add descriptions like we added in our code. We added the style or the CSS, right? So you can add information that you don't want to include in the content of your page. Then you have the body tag, and this contains all of the content that you want to show on your page. That could be text, images, videos, games, audio tracks, whatever you want to show. You have the character set that says the document should use the UTF-8, and this is basically the characters that we use in almost any language on earth, including emojis. And then you have titles, and that's the title that sets the title for your page, as we saw. So that's the basics of HTML. I think you guys should try it, go see it. So this file is going to be online. It's going to be in the description. But if we look at images really quickly, we added the source, right? So in our case, we added the source to be images forest. Now sometimes the image doesn't load, and you'll see this sometimes a lot. Or we have Google, like a search engine optimization or whatever. It wants to know what is in the picture, so I can describe the picture in the alternative text here. So I could say Brazilian Amazon rainforest. Okay, so I save that. So now we've described the image, and so if I go and I refresh this page, and I go and I hover on the image, let's see. So I'm going to hover on the image. I should see, well, sometimes I don't see it, but if I go here, you'll see alternate. This is a Brazilian Amazon rainforest. Okay, so that's images, and basically the alternate text here is a descriptive text of what's in my image. We have headings. We have the H1 heading, we have H2 heading, H3, and H4 headings, and they go all the way to 6. So we have H1 through H6 headings. You have paragraphs, so anything that's a paragraph would fall into the paragraph tasks. You have lists, and so these are ordered lists. So I say, you know, I'm Abe the Explorer. And then paragraph, I love to. Okay, then I'm going to add an unordered list, right? And I add a list element, and I say eat, sleep, code. Okay, so this unordered list says I love to eat, sleep, code. So now I'm going to go back to my page, and we're going to refresh it. And as you can see, I have an unordered list now. I love to eat, sleep, code. We have links, and links are A tags. They're anchors. A is short for anchor. So let's say I love to eat, sleep, code. If I want to link my Twitter, for example, I could say, here's my Twitter. Okay, but if I do this, people are just going to see some text. They're not going to see, you know, a link. I want to give them a link so that when they click on Twitter, they can go to my Twitter. So I'm going to say, I'm going to create an anchor, an A tag, okay? I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to put Twitter inside of my A tag. Now, href will give you a reference, a hyperlink reference to my, to whatever website I add, or ever link I add. So I could link it to another page on my website, right? So I could go to https www.twitter.com/AbeVExplorer, just my Twitter handle. So we're gonna refresh this. Oh, there's a link now. And if I click on, and you see that the mouse changes because it knows this is a link. If I click on it, wow, it took me to my Twitter. Isn't that amazing? Okay, so that's a link. Now links can be internal too. So if I create another file, I'm going to call this, well, not in images. I want to, in the root directory, I'm going to say, this page is going to have a list of my accomplishments. So I'm going to say accomplishments.html. And I'm going to add, let's say, a paragraph. Let's say, I have accomplished so much in college. Right? That's interesting. Cool. So on my home page, I can create a link that says, here's my Twitter, and you learn later why I read it as an amp, and percent, and so here's my Twitter and a list of my accomplishments. Again, I'm going to add accomplishments inside of an anchor tag. But this time, I'm going to go straight to accomplishments.html, because remember, our link is relative to our current file. So the index.html file is in the same folder as our accomplishments.html file. So now, if I go to our web page and refresh it, I'm going to say, here's my Twitter and the list of my accomplishments. And I can click on accomplishments, and boom, it takes me to my accomplishments. See, I have accomplished so much in college. Remember, I wrote this in the other file, accomplishments.html. I can go back, right, and now I have a link, internal link to the files that I've created. I also have a link to an external link to my Twitter. Okay, so those are links. Links are beneficial, links are helpful. So in conclusion, you've learned a lot about web pages. You've learned, let's see what we've learned. So on the, we've learned how to create a doc type, declare the doc type that this is an HTML file, create an HTML tag. Inside the HTML tag we have the head, and in the head we have, we first described that our text is written in UTF-8, right, which is, most languages on Earth are decoded in computers as UTF-8. You also have the title of our document, title of our HTML file. You have the style, which we can add CSS or styling for our code. And then we have the body tag. And inside the body tag, we have text that I've added. So this is a header. I love to. This is a paragraph. I've added an unordered list. I've added an image with alternate text, and I've closed the body tag and closed the HTML tag. This is a very simple web page, and you can design a web page similar to this by visiting the link that I add in the description below, where you can copy this code and edit it as you like. And you can do other things with the HTML file. I want you to play around. I want you to look up HTML tags and play with them yourself. And build an HTML. This is your first step to building a website, an HTML file. I hope this video was beneficial, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.